So just a summary of titration curves here. So when you hear a strong base, think about 13 to 14. So 14 is the max. Strong acid, one's the max, so about 1 to 2, including ignoring superacids and so forth. So just as a general rule of thumb. Weak bases and acids are a little bit more difficult to define. So 9 to 11, 3 to 5 generally. And so when you're looking at, so you look for a 7 here. So when you're looking to determine whether you've got a titration curve that's a weak acid or base, you look at the pattern here. If it looks like this, then you've got a weak acid plus a strong base. If you've got this, you've got a strong acid to a strong base. If you've got this, you've got a weak acid and a weak base, which the syllabus is ignoring. And what have I missed? This one here. So that's a strong acid and a weak base. Okay, so this is a titration of a strong acid and a strong base. You can see it's almost up to 13 here, and this one starts at about 1. And so what you have here is all of a sudden when you get close to being neutralized, there's a massive jump. So there's equal amounts of acid and base here, and so that has been neutralized, and then you get to the excess OH minuses here, and reaches the pH of the strong base, and you've started out with lots of H pluses down here, which is the pH of the strong acid. And so the equivalence point is where the reaction has been completed, and so you can use either of these indicators to indicate that, because it has a huge pH jump from 2 to 11 basically, and so that gives you a huge range of indicators that can detect changes between 2 and 11, and that will be the answer there. So at somewhere between 40 mils, all of a sudden it changes color because there's a huge pH change. Now we're going to get into the weak acids and weak bases, and so there'll be buffers, not for the previous one, strong acid, strong base, but just weak acids and strong bases, or weak bases, strong acids. And so the difference with these things are, because there's a weak acid and you're partially neutralizing it, you're creating an acid plus a salt, which is the definition of a buffer. And so at half the equivalence point here, you will have half of the acid and half the conjugate base, which is a perfect situation for a buffer. So that's defined as the buffer region, where the curve is flat. And more specifically, at half the equivalence point, you've got exactly half the acid plus conjugate base for this one, and that, subbing into the equation, that turns pH into pKa. And so basically, if you know the half equivalence point, the pH at the half equivalence point will be the pKa, because the conjugate base, the acid and conjugate base are equal, and therefore the acid dissociation constant will end up working out to equal pH. And so the hydrogen ion concentration, I should say, and then take the logs, negative logs of those, all right, as in the previous video. And so this all applies to a weak base, strong acid curve, which is coming up in the next video, next slide as well. So let's move on to those curves, and we have here the weak base, strong acid. So you can see that this is about 1. This one's sort of quite high actually, 11. It's ammonia, even though it's a weak base. And so you have the equivalence point here, 5.27. And so half of this volume here, 40, should be about 20. And so that gives you the pKa of the acid read across here. So that's the buffer region. And as you'll see, phenolphthalein detects pH changes from about 10 to 8 here from this graph. And as you see, it's nowhere near neutralized in that region. So we need methyl red in that case, because the pH jump is going to be much more detectable, because the pH jump at the equivalence point is only going to be detected at the pH range where methyl red changes its color. And if we just have a jump to the data book, let's just have a check of that. So let's see if methyl red does have a pKa that's similar to 5.27. And so here we go, methyl red, 5.7, the range is 4.4 to 6.2, and so 5.7 is within that range, so methyl red will work. And just out of curiosity, pink to yellow. So let's just check that as well. So you can see that's pink to yellow because the data book was set acid to base, so yellow to pink in this case. Now moving on to weak acid, strong base, similar situation. The equivalence point is here. So if you look at phenolphthalein, the pKa will be somewhere around the pH range. It should be within the pH range, so it goes from clear to pink. And we take half of that equivalence point over here, and we can find the pKa of the acid. And so that's a weak acid, and that goes up to a strong base, which is like close to 13. And this one is about 3,4. So just working through a problem now, make sure you have a look at many different types of these problems, because there's many different ways to word it and to do it. And so what we're looking at here is standard solution of sodium hydroxide. And so we've grabbed some vinegar and we've diluted it 1 in 10. So we've grabbed 25 mils of it, made it up to 250 mils. Then we took 20 mils of that. So we've got 25 mils in here, made it up to 250. We then took out 20 mils, and then we did our titration. So you'll get some sort of titration curve. So if we have a weak base and then we're adding acid, strong acid to it, so that reading there will give us 20.6 mils there. That's how much of the sodium hydroxide it took. And so what is the percent ethanol? It really should say volume per volume, because that's the answer that we're giving anyway. That's the density. So density equations down there, it's probably expected to be known if that was the question, but they might ask for a different finish off at the end. So the first part is very common, certainly. And so what do? We have to work out, if we use 20.6 mils of sodium hydroxide, we have to know how many moles that is. And then we can work out, because they're all 1:1:1, we can work out the number of moles of sodium ethanoic acid, then vinegar in that diluted solution, and then do a calculation to work out the original. And so you can see that here we've used 20.6 mils here of 1 mole of sodium hydroxide, so that gives us 0.0206 moles of sodium hydroxide. The ratio is 1:1, so that makes that easy. So it's the same number of moles of vinegar. And so we have this equation here. And so we have this many moles in this many mils. And so that concentration of that aliquot, that portion that we took out, is 1.03 molar of acetic acid. Okay, now that original solution was diluted 1 in 10. So we need to times that by 10. And so the actual original concentration of the acid was 10.3 molar. Okay, so that's sort of finished, but this is asked for a little bit more. So there's 10.3 moles per litre. What's the percentage of that? So if you've got 10.3 moles, so acetic acid is 60 grams per litre, so that gives us 172 grams. And the volume of 172 grams, density is mass on volume, so volume will equal mass divided by density. So it's 172 grams divided by 1.05, which is up here. So we've got 0.164 litres of ethanoic acid in a litre of the solution. And so that, because that's a 1 litre, so that's 16.4% ethanoic acid, which is quite concentrated in this original solution. Okay, so that's just an example using a titration curve potentially or potentially not. So make sure you do lots of those practice questions too. Okay, just one last thing as an update. How do you know from the graph whether it's strong acid or strong base titration? I just want to add a few more points. This one's below 2 and greater than 13 or greater than 12 at least. So it definitely must be strong acid, strong base, and vice versa over here. And plus the equivalence point is at 7. And so they're the two key points. The other thing I wanted to say is there's not a little gap, a dip here, so it can't be a weak acid or weak base. And so for the weak acids and weak bases, that's not in your syllabus. You can see there's a dip. You can see it's greater than 2 and less than 13 here in both cases. And this bit is so small you can't determine, you can't find a reliable indicator. So another reason why drop counter is better than a titration, because you can work that out mathematically without having to rely on a color change that's trying to operate over such a small pH change. The big thing is, if you look at the experimental videos, I finally worked out what this is, both calculation-wise by getting rid of the assumptions and not having the assumptions in there, the mathematical assumptions, but also the theory behind it. So when you have this buffer region that resists changes in pH, what it's actually doing is that buffer is being created, and because it's nowhere near the requested, well, the pH that it needs to be at the buffer, it has an exponential effect on there, and so that's why there's that little dip, and that's also one of the clues. Okay, so this one is strong acid and weak base, or weak base and strong acid. So you can see the cutoff numbers here, but you can also tell that the equivalence point is about here, which is less than 7. And so that it must be a strong acid, weak base. All right, and just doing the reverse, weak base, strong acid, you'll see that the equivalence point, if I can find my mouse, is here, which is above 7 in both cases. You've started off with a weak acid, so you got that dip, because as soon as you start adding some acid, some base in there, you're creating a buffer, and that buffer is exponentially trying to get to this ideal buffer concentration that's trying to maintain. So that's why the dip is there. And then you can see the basic numbers. This is above 12, so it's strong. This is above 2, so it's weak. Just going by the general rule of thumbs, which might be a little bit more difficult. It might be a little bit more trustworthy to try and look at this point and try and look for the dips. Hopefully they haven't stuffed up on the exam and forgotten to put the dips in there.